If you could tell us if we sound okay, I know House probably sounds terrible, but do I sound good? Low energy. Yes, exactly, Dominic Montoya. But you know us, continual technology problems, that's the name of the game. Special guest Optimus House. Well, I'm going to try to fix this on my end. Just give me a minute, House.
Technical difficulties.
Hey, basically all we do is technical difficulties. But more importantly, how are you beautiful bastards doing? It is yet again time for our Douchecanoe Live Sunday live streams. Frankly, in my opinion, the greatest live streams on the internet, where we talk about just the most tragic, horrific things imaginable. Because that's how we roll. And then there's my brother from another mother house who's like the best person. Wonderful, by the way, you say Nevada wrong. Is there something wrong with how I say Nevada?
Nevada.
Ah, I see, you're sounding much better now, House. Well, to me anyway. So is it Nevada or Nevada, Dominic Montoya?
Dude, with a name like Dominic Montoya, he's a beaner. Who cares?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. He could be from Spain.
True, true.
Just like Salma Hayek, who is ridiculously hot.
I'm joking, Dominic. I
So
don't, honestly.
it's Nevada or Nevada?
Nevada.
Well, I'm going to keep calling it Nevada because I don't give a shit. So we're a full month and 6 days into Trump's America. What do you think, House?
I was hoping the butt hurt would be over by now, but it seems like the mainstream media's job is just to keep spurting out the butt hurt, just to keep figuring out new and unusual ways to get the butt hurt to go.
Essentially, yes, and that's the depressing part. And this just proves, yet again, that we are the most honest and most trustworthy news source on the internet.
Which is fucking saying something.
So how have you been this week? Oh yeah, House has been sick, by the way.
Yeah, I spent most of yesterday praying for death. When I was conscious, the rest of the time I was I would say asleep, but crawling.
Go ahead.
I would more closely say that I was crawling quickly towards the warm embrace of death, but you know.
Dominic says, I just got a subbed when I saw you guys in Jim. Every time Jim releases a video, we get a small boost in viewership. Because we did PDC and Mr. Medicare, which is our most popular video.
Which apparently, since he's now a whore, is going to be, you know, fairly frequent.
Oh yeah, we may be able to eat his cast-offs. Survive from the scraps of his plate. So I decided, House, that I have tortured you enough.
All right.
Yep. You are my friend, and it is wrong of me to keep having you do politics when it's something you don't like to do. So I've picked a different story that we can talk about.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, you'll have to bear with me.
Okay.
Sick, dying, and raped in America's nursing homes. I've got to fix some
Okay.
sizings.
I spent most watching. Could we not do that yesterday, or could we not do that today?
Sorry, what'd you say? You broke up there for a bit.
I said I spent most of yesterday retching. Can we not do that today?
Oh no, the media always talks about fake news. This is real news.
True.
Like, this is seriously important shit. And nobody's talking about it. If you turn on CNN right now, and this is a CNN article, and it's huge. Like, they're talking something like over 1,000 nursing homes in this country as part of their huge investigation. And this isn't even on their main TV. They're just talking about Donald Trump.
Of course.
Because apparently the world has forgotten that the president is not all of the news that exists. For example, Bill Paxton died today.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Bill Paxton is, he's the second favorite person in every movie you've ever seen.
Wasn't he also the president in Independence Day?
No, that was the guy who's a lot like Bill Paxton, but that's not Bill Paxton. He was the "It's all over" guy in Aliens.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah. He was in the first Terminator movie. He was in Edge of Tomorrow. I'm just trying to remember this shit offhand. He was in Twister. He was the male love interest in Twister. But yeah, Bill Paxton has passed away and is horrific and depressing.
Due to complications from surgery. So it wasn't even like...
Yeah, he had a fucking heart attack. Or he had a stroke during heart surgery.
So, man, it's just... shitty. Although I still think that it's part of the Hollywood elite parting out less elite members of Hollywood so that they can survive longer.
When will they realize that the couple drops they get from the Fountain of Youth aren't enough for all of them? Some of the victims can't speak. They rely on walkers and wheelchairs to leave their beds. They have been robbed of their memories. They come to nursing homes to be cared for. Instead, they are sexually assaulted. Because there's sick fucks everywhere. I don't find the elderly sexually appealing. House?
No, not really.
The unthinkable is happening at facilities throughout the country. Vulnerable seniors are being raped and sexually abused by the very people paid to care for them.
Yes, you did, Beta Punk Films.
It's impossible to know just how many victims are out there. But through an exclusive analysis of state and federal data and interviews with experts, regulators, and the families of victims, CNN has found this little discussed issue is more widespread than anyone would imagine. Even more disturbing, in many cases, nursing homes and the government officials who oversee them are doing little or nothing to stop it. This is the important shit. This is the sort of shit that should be running on fucking TV 24 goddamn hours a day.
Nope, gotta remind everybody that Trump is in fact a literal Nazi.
Sometimes, okay, I should mention that this has somewhat of a personal vibe for me because I worked for almost 2 years as a nighttime janitor of an elderly care facility that had about 180 residents. And I was the only nighttime janitor there, so I was very busy. And as far as I'm aware, no sexual abuse occurred, but I do know for a fact that they were gaming the system to get as much money out of the federal government as possible at the expense of the elderly. What they would do is they would take them and they would put them in physical therapy, right?
Yeah.
Well, they bill the government for the physical therapy through Medicare, Medicaid. And then over the course of 6 months, which was how much the physical therapy was allotted, they would say, oh, they're slowly getting better and slowly improving. And then at the end of the 6 months, when the physical therapy would be up, after a couple weeks, an assessor would be sent out to check on them by the state, who would find that the elderly person has regressed without the physical therapy, when in fact they never made any improvement at all. So they would be signed up for 6 more months of physical therapy. Like, some of these people could not think on their own. They would have to be helped dressed and put in wheelchairs, but they'd be brought to physical therapy every day. We treat our elderly like shit in this country.
We treat damn near everybody like shit in this country.
Sometimes pure and even willful negligence is at work. In other instances, nursing home employees and administrators are hamstrung in their efforts to protect victims who can't remember exactly what happened to them or even identify their perpetrators. In cases reviewed by CNN, victims and their families were failed at every stage. Nursing homes were slow to investigate and report allegations because of a reluctance to believe the accusations or a desire to hide them. Police viewed the claims as unlikely at the outset, dismissing potential victims because of failing memories or jumbled allegations. And because of the high bar set for substantiating abuse, state regulators failed to flag problems of repeated allegations against a single caregiver. It's these systemic, and I like that they're actually using systemic in its proper context for once, failures that make it especially hard for victims to get justice, and even easier for perpetrators to get away with their crimes. At 83 years old, unable to speak, unable to fight back, she was even more vulnerable than she was as a little girl fleeing her homeland. In fact, she was as vulnerable as an infant when she was raped. The dignity which she always displayed during her life, which was already being assaulted so unrelentingly by Alzheimer's disease, was dealt a final devastating blow by this man. The horrific irony is not lost upon me, that the very thing she feared most as a young girl fleeing her homeland happened to her in the final, most vulnerable days of her life. And they're talking about Sonia Fisher. Maya Fisher made this statement in court at the 2015 sentencing of a nursing assistant convicted of raping her mother. Choking back tears, Fisher detailed her mother's story, recounting how she had fled Indonesia as a youth with her family to escape the rape and killing of young girls by Japanese soldiers, only to fall victim decades later to a man whose job was to care for her. A fellow caregiver saw male nursing assistant George Pingba in 83-year-old Sonia Fisher's room at 4:30 in the morning on December 18th, 2014, at the Walker Methodist Health Center in Minneapolis. A bare leg was on each side of his hips, and her adult diaper lay open on the bed.
Ugh.
When the witness noticed the 76-year-old aide thrusting back and forth, she said she knew a sexual assault was occurring. Pingba ultimately pled guilty to third-degree criminal sexual conduct with a mentally impaired or helpless victim and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. In an emotional statement directed at Pingba during sentencing, the judge told him he had done more than ravage the lives of his victim and her family. He had betrayed the public trust granted to caregivers who have such intimate access to the sick and the elderly.
No shit.
Apparently, Political Seer has taken upon himself to be the shit talker of our chat.
Oh, somebody's got to do it. And
It
considering the
happens.
fact that he's got the anonymous mask,
Well, it's like it.
I didn't say it was it.
Sky Valor. Great story to jump in on. Yeah, so we're talking about a legitimate news story. We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about SJW bullshit. This is a real horrible thing that's happening. You violated a position of authority, a position of trust, Judge Elizabeth Cutter said during the sentencing hearing. The ramifications of what you did are so far reaching, it also affected everyone in that facility. Everyone who stays in that facility. Everyone who works at that facility. It affects everyone who has to place a loved one in a facility. And it does. We don't know anything about these people, but we expect them to care for our loved ones? Really, I just think when you turn 80, you should be liquefied.
Soylent Green is made of people.
Actually, I don't think that would work. How many celebrities now are in their 80s? Yeah. I'm not going to become sandwiches. I still have to act. I apologize. I'm attempting to inject levity into a story that there is not much levity in.
Yeah, I think political seers hit the nail on the head. The media can't report on this because it would make people want more deportations.
Pingbaugh apologized at the hearing and said he planned to take his Bible with him to prison. Unless you're going to hang yourself with the Bible, I don't care.
I don't think he understands how prison works because they don't let personal items in.
His attorney asked for leniency. Pingbaugh had endured...
Fuck his attorney.
Pingbaugh
Fuck his attorney with him.
Yeah. Send his attorney to prison, too. Pingbaugh had endured his own personal struggles as a refugee, the attorney said, fleeing Liberia after many of his family members were killed. Pingbaugh's one unspeakable act, he told the judge, was completely out of character. You know how many unspeakable acts should be committed in one's lifetime? House? None.
0.
You want to talk about out of fucking character? It should never have been in character in the first place. It should never have been an option. At no point should raping an Alzheimer's-ridden 80-year-old ever be something that even realistically enters your mind.
You know, there's a wise man out there who I believe has a quote for this situation, especially when he says he's going to take his Bible to prison.
What's that?
You can take that Bible, shine it up real nice, get it all pretty, turn that sumbitch sideways, and shove it up his ass.
Oh, but it gets better. Yet in court documents uncovered by CNN, prosecutors revealed it wasn't the first time Pingbaugh had been investigated over sexual assault allegations.
So it wasn't out of character.
Yeah, this is just the time he was
alive.
Personnel records obtained by prosecutors during the investigation and reviewed by CNN show Pingbaugh was suspended 3 times as Walker Methodist officials investigated repeated accusations of sexual abuse at the facility, including at least 2 where he was the main suspect. The earliest complaint was in 2008, which means that he had 6 years to do whatever the fuck he wanted, because nobody wanted to step up and go, maybe we should check out and see if the creepy old man's raping the unconscious and elderly.
To be fair, that is kind of something that's really, really out there. That's not my first thing to think about when I see somebody really creepy.
When police investigating allegations he had engaged in sexual intercourse with a 65-year-old who suffered from multiple sclerosis. In another case, an 83-year-old blind and deaf woman who lived on the same wing as Fisher's mother said she was raped multiple times, always at midnight. Police investigated her report just 7 months before Fisher's mother was assaulted. While the woman could not identify her assailant, Pingba was suspended by the facility along with several other male staffers who were on duty during the nights of the alleged assaults. None of these allegations were found to be substantiated by the facility or the state. For years, Walker Methodist kept Pingba working on the overnight shift until that early morning in December 2014 when someone caught him. Finally. In that instance...
Taser.
God, I hope they just yanked him off her and just beat the shit off of him. Beat the brakes off of him. Beat him until he, had to do the Star Trek thing where he's pushing the button to light up the light to talk.
There are 4 lights.
In that instance, the Minnesota Department of Health found the facility acted immediately to ensure the residents' safety and promptly removed Pingba. Forget all those other times. The one time they acted quickly, that's the important time. The state also noted that the facility had previously provided Pingba with required abuse training.
Yes, beat him until he regrets living.
As a result, the facility was not cited for any wrongdoing. Only Pingba was held accountable for the assault. Mary Fisher had no way of knowing about the previous allegations against Pingba uncovered by CNN, but she sued Pingba, who agreed to an unusual arrangement in which he is on the hook for a massive $15 million judgment only if he abuses again. But considering he's 76 years old and going to be in prison for a few years... Walker Methodist refused to comment on the previous allegations against Pingba, who worked at the facility for nearly 8 years, but said in a statement that it fully cooperated with authorities and the care and well-being of all of our residents and patients is our primary focus.
Bullshit. Corporate doublespeak. Put your money where your fucking mouth is.
I like Dominic Montoya. Beat him until he regrets living. Yeah, that's just corporate. That's corporate. You can't sue us. Doublespeak. CNN reached out to family members of other residents who earlier reported they were sexually assaulted at Walker Methodist during the time Pingba worked there, although he was not deemed a suspect in every case. They said the officials there were quick to dismiss the residents' claims as hallucinations or fantasies. Walker Methodist certainly failed to handle this appropriately with my mother and other residents, and there should be consequences, said the son of the first alleged victim after learning of Pingba's rape conviction from CNN. A son of a different alleged victim, who had accused an unknown perpetrator, said he was irate that he was never told that a pattern of complaints had emerged against a single caregiver. Had he known of the pattern, the son said, he would have taken more seriously his mother's report of abuse. Instead, he trusted Walker Methodist. Because they said, oh, she's just a crazy old woman. She doesn't know what she's saying. And he's like, yep, you're right, no. My God, if I ever get old enough to be put in a home, unlikely. But if I do, just put a fucking bullet in me.
Oh, dude, you wonder why I eat bacon-wrapped cheese.
The Minnesota Department of Health told CNN that it's barred by state law from releasing the identity of anyone investigated over an allegation that has not been substantiated, regardless of the number of allegations. While I agree that releasing the name of somebody who's in an investigation that is unsubstantiated is not a good thing to do, if there's a pattern, you may want to start, telling people. But what's the limit? What's the limit of crimes where you go, okay, we haven't proved it the last 3 times, maybe we should release his name to the public? But both family members of these 2 alleged sexual assault victims also questioned the state health department. How effective is its oversight if it was not aware of the multiple reports of abuse at Walker Methodist and still could not intervene? When pressed by CNN, the agency said the reports occurred during a time when a paper system was used, and that's been working to modernize the system in the hopes of flagging such problems.
More, please don't sue us, doublespeak. Fuck you.
And it's nice to see a state government indulging in corporate doublespeak. Some accounts of alleged sexual abuse come from civil and criminal court documents filed against nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and individuals who work there. Other incidents are buried in detailed reports filed by state health investigators. A 76-pound North Carolina nursing home resident who was so congenitally impaired she required assistance with even the simplest daily tasks reported that a nursing aide behind closed doors pushed her head towards him and forced her to give him oral sex. The third time a resident of a Texas nursing home was raped by a nurse, the assistant ejaculated into the victim's mouth and on her breasts. When he left, desperate to hold on to whatever evidence she could, she spit the semen from her mouth into her bra and kept the unwashed bra for 3 weeks. "That's all I have," she later told state investigators. In Iowa, a woman who depended on a walker to move around and couldn't bathe herself reported that a nursing aide sexually assaulted her in the shower, but the facility never flagged this accusation to authorities because the aide had left the country. An 88-year-old California woman who only had sex with one man her entire life, her husband of nearly 70 years, said she woke in her nursing home bed with her catheter removed and her bed wet. The next thing she remembered was seeing an unknown male nursing assistant staring at her naked body. "This is why I love my job," she remembered him saying, according to what she told police. Weeks later, the woman complained of vaginal pain and oozing blisters, and she was eventually diagnosed with incurable genital herpes. To this day, the identity of the alleged perpetrator just hasn't been determined. And finally, in a small town in North Carolina, a nursing assistant continued working for years despite multiple reports of alleged abuse. Only after a defiant nurse reported the abuse to police was he fired and arrested. Luis Gomez, 58, is in jail awaiting trial and maintains his innocence. Most of the crimes examined by CNN involved lone actors, but in some cases, a mob mentality fueled the abuse, and it's not just women who have been victimized. I'm proud of CNN for saying that. God, this is just... fuck these people.
You know, Mo, I spent yesterday going in and out of consciousness, retching so hard that my ribs still hurt today. That was more fun than this was.
Yeah,
that was a lot more fun than that.
There's not.
That was a lot more fun.
It's a horrible story. And I'm glad somebody's shedding light on it because it's one of those things that people need to know about. Even if it's horrible, even if it's tragic, and even if it makes us want to burn these places to the ground with all the employees still inside. People have to know. This is what journalism is supposed to be, people. It's not supposed to be talking heads giving their opinions on the latest presidential speech. It's supposed to be uncovering corruption, finding out the truth. This is actual investigative journalism, and I am amazed I see it. Because I've
notice
spent...
you have to go to their website.
Go ahead.
Notice you have to go to their website.
Yeah. Because it's sure as hell not on the fucking CNN channel. Because Donald Trump gets the ratings. Because when the government made an agreement with the television companies to give them the airwaves in exchange for 1 hour of news programming a day, they did not anticipate the rise of advertising. For months, a group of male nursing aides at a California facility abused and humiliated 5 male residents. taking videos and photos to share with other staff members. One victim, a 56-year-old with cerebral palsy, was paraded around naked. Another, an elderly man with paralysis who struggled to speak, was pinched on his nipples and penis and forced to eat feces out of his adult diapers. He was terrified his abusers would kill him. While the aides lost their certifications, an investigation by Disability Rights California found that many of them never faced charges.
And people wonder why I hate California.
People wonder why I hate humanity. Another group of nursing aides, teenagers in Albert Lea, Minnesota, tormented at least 15 male and female residents, many of whom suffered from Alzheimer's. The female aides struck, poked, and rubbed the residents and touched their breasts. They inserted their fingers into one resident's rectum. They rubbed the resident's crotches and laughed. One aide pulled down her own pants and sat on a female resident's lap, humping and groping her. I was basically appalled by the callous disregard for human decency, a judge later said. Two of the abusers, who were 18 at the time and convicted of disorderly conduct by a caregiver, served 42 days in jail. The other teens were tried in juvenile court and faced no jail time at all. Healthcare in this country needs fixed. Not stopgap measures, not Affordable Care Acted. It needs torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. These companies that take all this federal money, they should live in abject fear of the government knocking on the door. The state boards that research these areas and keep all these places operating within code should have the funding to allow their people to go out to show up at any time. But instead, we get lobbyists going, no, you don't need to pay for that. We'll regulate ourselves. That always works. I can't think of an industry that successfully self-regulates. And while I am a fan of the free market, you need an outside entity ready to step on the worst excesses of corruption and graft. Despite the litany of abuses detailed in government reports, there is no comprehensive national data on how many cases of sexual abuse have been reported in facilities housing the elderly. State health investigators examine all types of abuse reported at nursing homes and assisted living facilities, whether reported by the facilities or flagged by complaints to the state from witnesses, family members, or victims. In the case of nursing homes, state officials typically conduct these investigations, as well as routine inspections, on behalf of the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which regulates the more than 15,000 facilities that receive government reimbursement that pay for many residents' care. Both state health agencies and the federal government then use the information to rate facilities and issue financial penalties for the worst offenders. CNN surveyed the health departments and other agencies that oversee long-term care facilities in all 50 states. Of the states that could provide at least some data, the responses varied wildly. Illinois, for example, said 386 allegations of sexual abuse of nursing home residents had been recorded since 2013, 201 of which involved a caretaker. Hawaii said 8 allegations of sexual abuse were investigated between 2011 and 2013, 5 of which involved a caregiver. And when states provide a further breakdown of how many allegations have been substantiated, the results demonstrate just how few accusations end up being proven. Whether it's because of the extreme hurdles posed by the aging victims, the destruction of evidence, or half-hearted investigations by facilities and regulators. Of the 386 cases in Illinois, 59 were considered substantiated. And in Texas, 11 of 251 sexual complaints during the 2015 fiscal year were substantiated. Wisconsin said it didn't have a single substantiated report of abuse in the last 5 years. Because fuck Wisconsin.
There's only one good thing about Wisconsin.
Porn and disease testing.
That's not the good thing about Wisconsin, but
No, he's saying that was an example of successful self-regulation. Even then, there's no legal recourse should a victim be repeatedly sexually abused. But most states could not say how frequently abuse investigations involve sexual allegations, often stating that sexual abuse allegations are not categorized separately from other forms of abuse. And the federal government does not track sexual allegations either. More than 16,000 complaints of sexual abuse have been reported since 2000 in long-term care facilities, so that's more than one for each facility, which include both nursing homes and assisted living facilities, according to federal data housed by the Administration for Community Living. Whatever the fuck that is. I've never heard of that administration before, have you?
nope. It sounds like a thing that was made up to give somebody's kid a job.
But agency officials warn that this figure doesn't capture everything. Only those cases in which state long-term care ombudsmen, who act as advocates for facility residents, were somehow involved in resolving the complaints. So there could be 5 times, or 20 times, or fucking 30 times more. We don't know. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services lump sexual allegations into a category that includes all kinds of abuse, such as physical or financial. The agency said this is because it takes all forms of abuse seriously. I would assume if it was abuse, you would take it seriously regardless. When asked by CNN... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just give us the general statistics. You don't have to lump all of the statistics into one big lump.
When asked by CNN, the agency conducted a specialized search using sex-related keywords. But because not every case was sexual in nature, CNN had to review each case individually to filter out any irrelevant citations.
I feel sorry for the interns that had to do that.
The reports show that 226 nursing homes have been cited for failing to protect residents from instances in which sexual abuse was substantiated between 2010 and 2015. Of these cases, around 60% resulted in fines, which totaled more than $9 million, though only 16 facilities were permanently cut off from Medicare and Medicaid funding. Because the federal government only regulates nursing homes, this analysis doesn't even include assisted living facilities. But these statistics only tell a small part of the story because they fail to capture the many instances in which nursing homes have been cited for mishandling allegations of sexual abuse in other ways, ranging from botched investigations to cover-ups. And this is what I'm saying. The whole system is broken from the top down. The federal government has no idea what the fuck it's doing. The state government is overwhelmed and sometimes in the pocket of lobbyists. And the facilities are just running rampant, doing whatever the fuck they want, trying to pocket as much money as possible before they get shut down. Which will most likely never happen. Using inspection reports filed between 2013 and 2016 and a similar sex-related keyword search, CNN conducted its own detailed analysis. Those interns didn't leave the office for like a solid week. The result, CNN found that the federal government had cited more than 1,000 1,000 nursing homes for mishandling or failing to prevent alleged cases of rape, sexual assault, and sexual abuse at their facilities during that 3-year period. And nearly 100 of these facilities have been cited multiple times during that period. Complaints and allegations that don't result in a citation, which the government calls a deficiency, aren't included in these Medicare reports. In addition, national studies have found that a large percentage of rape victims typically never report their assaults. So these numbers likely represent only a fraction of the alleged sexual abuse incidents in nursing homes worldwide. Well, nationwide. Of the instances examined, at least a quarter were allegedly perpetrated by aides, nurses, and other staff members, while a small portion involved facility visitors, including family members or unknown assailants. And while most citations dealt with causes of residents abusing other residents, accusations made about caregivers and other workers tended to be far more serious, involving allegations of forced intercourse, oral sex, digital penetration, and other forms of sexual assault. Because apparently, there's a lot of fucking perverted degenerates who work at family care facilities.
You know, it took me a minute to realize that when they said digital, it meant fingers and not computer related.
This article is slowly killing me on the inside, but it's one of those things that I want to finish it.
Do you have your jug handy?
I do, but I would like to be clear-headed.
Okay. But just think that when you finish it, you can have a big chug of your jug. The chug jug.
The stories found in these reports range from sad to sickening.
No shit. That may be the understatement of 2017.
An aide admitted to urinating in the shower while a female resident was inside it, showing her his erect penis and kissing her, then warning her not to tell anyone. A nurse overheard 2 aides talking about how a resident had been given a lap dance that made him ejaculate. A woman was found gagging and trying to fight off a male resident who had his penis in her mouth. Family members viewed video footage of an aide repeatedly raping their loved one who was on feeding tubes after hiding a camera and a stuffed animal in the room. CNN's analysis found that the nursing homes themselves are a large part of the problem. More than 500 facilities have been cited for failing to investigate and report allegations of sexual abuse thoroughly to authorities, or for not properly screening employees for potentially abusive pasts. One nursing director told a state inspector if the facility reported all allegations, it would be numerous, and the state agency wouldn't want that either.
Horse shit.
That's the point of the state agency, you dumb fucker. Because of this lack of investigation or reporting, it's hard to determine how many of the alleged cases of abuse were substantiated or resulted in criminal proceedings. But at least several hundred were confessed to by the perpetrators or observed by witnesses. That is how little these people care about getting caught harming your relatives. Amid the reports of sexual abuse were hundreds of stories that painted scenes of chaos. Residents climbing into other residents' beds and eating their food, running wildly up and down the halls, pulling out knives and other weapons, hallucinating about snakes coming out of their heads and little boys hiding in the curtains, urinating in wastebaskets, drinking and doing drugs, falling asleep in the bathtub, stealing walkers, choking and hitting people with fists and wheelchair parts, escaping out windows, drinking lotion and oven cleaner. Such a challenging environment provides some context for how serious allegations of sexual assault could be overlooked. Yeah, because these facilities are trying to squeeze as much money as they can out of it, so they don't hire enough people. They don't have modern facilities. They are scraping by with the fucking bare bones minimum. You know how many times, because not as a janitor and not like a trained aide or anything, I'm not allowed to touch the residents. I'm not allowed to help them stand up or sit down because of liability reasons, right?
Yep.
At least once a week, I was called in to help people move because there was nobody else to do it. And the only other nurse working on the night shift would be like a 90-pound, 18-year-old girl just out of fucking, like, getting her certification for this. It's rarely talked about, but sexual assault in the very facilities tasked with caring for the elderly is hardly a new problem, with cases dating back decades. And we've never fixed it. It's happening all over the country, in cities, the suburbs, and the countryside, in nursing homes housing low-income residents on Medicaid, and in centers where people pay thousands of dollars out of their own savings to be there. They're owned by huge corporations and regional chains, but also by nonprofits and mom-and-pop small business owners. And the issue is only becoming more pressing as the elderly population booms, with the number of Americans over age 65 projected to more than double between 2010 and 2050. Yet the facilities that currently house more than 1 million senior citizens typically pay low wages to nursing assistants, making it difficult to attract and keep quality workers. And during the most vulnerable hours, the night shift, there are often few supervisors. Yeah, try none where I worked. We had our, like, the hallway where we put all the dying people, and then we had 4 normal hallways, and then we had the Alzheimer's wing, right?
Yeah.
2 nurses for the Alzheimer's wing, 2 nurses for the 4 hallways, and then 1 nurse for the dying people's wing, and then 1 janitor for the whole fucking building.
I'm not surprised.
The abuse is an epidemic, says Mark Kozheradsky. That's a fucking name. A Minnesota attorney who represented a number of victims and their families, including Fisher, the woman who recounted her mother's rape in court. Predators find elderly patients to be easy prey. Those patients often have dementia. They can't say what happened or are not believed because many people find it inconceivable that a 28-year-old caregiver would want to rape someone's grandmother, because rape is not about sexual attraction, rape is about power. Kozheradsky and other experts, often who advocate on behalf of the elderly, say strong federal and state laws are in place that require abuses to be reported and investigated. The problem, they say, is that these laws are not always followed by the nursing homes. And while federal and state officials told CNN that regulators aggressively investigate complaints and hold facilities accountable, critics say their enforcement just isn't tough enough. And investigations by facility and state officials are often cursory and, at best, rarely going deep enough to meet a difficult burden of proof. Many nursing home employees promptly report abusers to authorities as required by federal law and assist in the investigations. But in numerous examples of abuse uncovered by CNN, the facilities themselves have made it possible for violent rapes and sexual assaults to go unchecked. So, anybody here have family in nursing homes?
No, thank God.
I did at one point. Fucking terrifies me to think of that. In these facilities, allegations are routinely questioned or dismissed because victims have cognitive conditions such as Alzheimer's. Workers often lack the specific training needed to spot sexual abuse. keeping reports of abuse from ever reaching authorities. And the reputation and safety of the facility may take priority. There's often a fear that bringing investigators into a cash-strapped facility may expose other issues, threaten nursing home with closure, or open the door to costly lawsuits.
There you go.
Most sinister.
It's all about it's all about the bottom line.
Dollar bills. Most sinister of all are administrators and employees who actively impede investigations. There are some situations where they don't realize it's happened, and they don't want to believe it. They just don't understand it, said Ann Burgess, a well-known nurse and Boston College nursing professor who specializes in the assessment and treatment of elderly sexual abuse victims. There are other cases where they try to cover it up. They blame the victim. At one Colorado facility, nursing aide Antonio Nieto had already been accused of raping one female resident in her bed at Broomfield Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center when an allegation emerged from another woman. Prosecutors say the facility allowed Nieto to return to work after the first alleged assault because the facility had found the woman's claim to be unfounded. The facility, which had come under new management since the assaults, said it allowed Nieto to return to work only after being told the police investigation had stalled and no criminal charges were expected. So they weren't told that the case had found him not guilty. They were told, well, we don't think anything's going to come of it. He was fired after the other victim came forward. He was ultimately sentenced to 24 years to life in prison. Broomfield paid you ready for this staggering number?
I'm braced and ready to go.
$51,000, $837. $51,837 fine.
Wow.
A paltry sum in comparison with the millions it receives in annual government reimbursement for patient care. And they've got three of the pictures of people here. This is Andrew Merzwisky. This is Mr. Nieto. And this is Pingba.
I still say the guy in the middle looks like a psychopath.
He looks like a fucking psychopath, I'm not gonna lie. But then again, he was caught raping the elderly, so, he probably is a fucking psychopath. When the chef in an assisted living facility was arrested in Louisiana last year in the alleged rape of a 78-year-old resident, a director at the facility, Julie Henry, was quick to issue an emotional statement to local media, claiming the company was shocked and disheartened. But not long after, Henry was arrested, accusing of orchestrating an elaborate cover-up of the abuse. According to police, she tried to prevent an investigation by instructing staff not to report the incident. She asked employees at the assisted living facility, Bow Province Memory Care, to hand over all evidence to her, which she then allegedly destroyed. The chef, Jerry Kahn, was indicted on first-degree rape charge and has pleaded not guilty. The case is ongoing and his attorney declined to comment. Excuse me, is it true your client is just a complete scumfuck?
I refuse to answer. Oh.
You have it here, folks. His client is a complete scumfuck. Henry has not been indicted, and her case is under review. Henry's attorney said he is confident the continued investigation will result in her exoneration. The resident and the cook, Mr. Kahn, initially denied anything had occurred, creating confusion as to whether this was a reportable incident. When it was learned that an incident had occurred, Ms. Henry cooperated fully with the police and continues to do so. After she burned all the evidence. He said in an email, Bow Province said it was working with police and the state health department to verify the facts behind these allegations, but said it could not comment further on an ongoing investigation, which is the cop-out phrase of everyone with something to hide. Even in facilities where there are no allegations of an orchestrated cover-up, documents examined by CNN show a failure to preserve evidence. A resident who alleged abuse would be given a shower, for example, or a crime scene would be disturbed by washing the bed sheets. As a result, DNA evidence was lost. In Minnesota, officials transferred an 89-year-old resident at the Edgewood Vista Assisted Living Facility to the psychiatric ward of a local hospital after she reported being raped. A certified nursing assistant... Yeah, bitch must be crazy. Put her in with the crazies. A certified nursing assistant, Andrew Mazurski... This motherfucker, the first one. 28... admitted to having sex with the resident, but claimed it was consensual. Would you like to call that bullshit house?
Oh yeah. I'm just letting it sit there and simmer for a minute.
A director at the facility believed him and blamed the victim, who suffered from dementia, telling the sexual assault nurse who examined the victim that the resident was a flirt.
Bullshit.
She had come forward and spoken out against her facility, and she was locked in a room. The nurse examiner, Teresa Fleisvig, told CNN. She felt like she was in prison. She felt like she was being punished. Her rape examination didn't occur until almost a week after the alleged assault. Flesvig said she discovered clear physical evidence of assault, one of the largest vaginal tears she had ever seen. Mrzwicki pled guilty to criminal sexual conduct and was sentenced in 2014 to 53 months in prison. So a little over 4 years. While the state disciplined the official who had sided with him, Mrzwicki's attorney declined to comment. Well, it's a bit late now. He was already convicted. The facility said it couldn't comment on details of the specific case, citing privacy reasons, but did acknowledge that officials had learned from the incident. What we learned was we weren't prepared for anything of this nature, said Michael Johnson, Chief Nursing Officer for Edgewood Management Group. We had to do better.
No shit.
Sometimes police and state investigators also fail to take complaints seriously. In one instance, a police report reviewed by CNN cited an administrator's statement that the victim was an avid viewer of Law and Order as a reason to dismiss her allegation. Well, yeah, this bitch watches a lot of TV, so, whatever.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Hallucinations seem to revolve around episodes of the series, the officer wrote. As a result, there were no arrests, the rape kit was not tested, and the case was closed. The victim of this investigation has made similar allegations regarding suspects that do not exist, are physically unable to have committed the act she accuses, etc., the police department told CNN in a written statement. The victim suffers from mental illness and hallucinations. Her statements are inconsistent and unfounded. You're still supposed to investigate because you're the fucking cops. That's your job. Somebody comes to you and says, this thing happened to me, you have to look into it. In the Minnesota case involving nursing aide Pingba, the state investigator wrote that the first alleged victim had a lengthy history of falsely accusing male caregivers of sexual inappropriateness and sexual promiscuity and inappropriate boundaries. When the CNN showed the victim's son the state's report, he said the characterizations were false. Asked about this by CNN, the Minnesota Department of Health said the claims had to be taken seriously and investigated, even though clearly they weren't. In hindsight, and according to the current report writing practices, MDH regrets the wording of this statement and apologizes to the family for this insensitive comment.
Please don't sue us.
While assailants such as Pingba have ended up behind bars as a result of their crimes, many never face charges. The older the victim, the less likely an offender will be convicted of sexual abuse, according to a study of the elderly sponsored by the National Institute of Justice, who I swear to God need, Judge Dredd's running around. Who do you work for? The National Institute. of justice.
I could get behind that.
And victims who lived in facilities were even less likely to see their assailants face charges and guilty verdicts. We can only hope the corporations give half a fucking shit as much as $1. No, they don't. Player, my uncle runs a nursing home. He has fired people simply because a few of his patients, he only houses 18 people, so a few people matter, didn't like them. I bet he'd fucking shoot them for doing this. And I'm being fucking genuine with that applause. Right on. I hope if your uncle finds somebody doing that, he just fucking takes them out back and shoots them.
Well, no. Make him dig the hole first.
True. Let's be eco-friendly. In fact, victims with dementia and other diseases are often considered such unreliable witnesses that even cases in which an assailant confesses to the crime can be thrown out or resulted in little punishment for the defendant. This was true in the case of Walter Martinez, a St. Louis nursing aide who faced felony rape charges and years in prison after confessing in a resignation letter to abusing 2 elderly residents sexually. Martinez ended up receiving 2 years of probation after the alleged victims died or suffered from such severe dementia that they weren't able to testify. He confessed. It shouldn't matter if they can't testify. His attorney told CNN that despite the resignation letter, Martinez never pled guilty for the conduct he was charged with and was prepared to defend himself in court. Mr. Martinez has gone to counseling and admitted that he had sexual thoughts while performing his regular job duties. He felt tremendous guilt for having those thoughts, and that's when he used the term sexual abuse in his resignation letter, the lawyer said in an email. Well, he didn't mean it.
He didn't do nothing.
He was a good boy. Went to church every Sunday. In the case of the Texas woman who saved her bra for weeks as evidence, a suspect was arrested and indicted in the alleged rape, but court records show that prosecutors couldn't secure the alleged victim's testimony. The case was dismissed last year, despite the fact that DNA from the bra matched a sample taken from the accused. The lab said the chances of the DNA being from anyone else were less than 1 in 983, not million, not billion, trillion. Even those facilities that actively impede investigations or cover up abuse often get little more than a slap on the wrist. The vast majority of nursing homes with horror stories chronicled in their inspection reports are still in business, accepting new residents today. Leave your loved ones with us. They'll have a good time. Holy shit, if any of you have elderly relatives, fucking hide them. Well, I mean, that's why people drop off old people. Like, we don't want to deal with them. This is interrupting my my Sudoku time. So guess what? This is what happens when you leave the care of your relatives to fucking strangers. Strangers getting paid a pittance. That's why I don't like daycare facilities either. Because you know who can take the best care of your children? Some 18-year-old getting paid minimum wage. How hard is it to shut one down? It is almost impossible, said Tony Chicotel, a staff attorney at the nonprofit group California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. I'm sure they're a group that gets all the ladies. The worst nightmare for the state regulators is a facility closing because the residents oftentimes have no place to go. So instead, government regulators levy fines and withhold Medicare and Medicaid payments in the hope of getting facilities in line. But even when penalties are imposed, which the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services says are meant to push a facility to correct a given issue as soon as possible, the fines are often shockingly small. CNN just used the word shockingly. When a facility in Texas failed to take proper action after an elderly man said he was raped and drugged, authorities punished the home with a $116,000 fine and by temporarily barring it from receiving government reimbursements for new patients. The fine was ultimately cut almost in half based on the facility's financial hardship, and the ban on government reimbursement lasted only 11 days. So I don't actually think it stopped them from getting any money at all.
Well, it stopped them for 11 days.
A facility in California, which allowed a licensed nurse to work for weeks, despite reports he had sexually assaulted a female resident multiple times, kissing her and fondling her breasts, was fined $22,000 by the state. And then there is Walker Methodist in Minnesota, where 83-year-old Sonia Flesher became the victim of the same kind of violent assault she had fled so many years ago. There she was raped by an employee the facility knew had been the subject of abuse allegations for years. She was unable to speak, unable to move, her daughter Maya recounted just a few weeks after her mother passed away last year. She couldn't even cry out when this was happening to her. The facility where she was victimized received no penalty at all.
Hey, Emily.
Time to sue these fuckers into the ground and then go after their bank accounts. That's a great sentiment, Dominic. But the problem is, if the state finds them non-accountable, you can't really sue them. Your case will be thrown out. That's why I was saying the whole system needs redone. From the ground up. Everything. Emily, if you're having to do this with a parent in another state, keep a fucking eye on the facility. Drop in when they're not expecting you to. Research them. Because the article has this thing at the bottom. Let me pull it up one more time. Oh no, that's not the right part. Where is it? It's a sidebar. How safe are your elderly loved ones? There is no way to know about abuse that goes unreported, but you can look up the name of a nursing home in federal inspection data and see whether it has been cited for sexual abuse and other issues in the past 3 years. What you do is you go to the Federal Nursing Home Compare website, which there's a link in the CNN article to look up facilities by name or location. On the first page of results, you will see a star rating for the facility based on factors such as staffing levels. A history of abuse or other inspection problems will typically be reflected in the health inspector rating. Click on the health inspection rating to see a summary of the facility's most recent inspection. From here, you can click on View All Health Inspections. For details, you can go to a specific date and click View Full Report. From the main profile page for the facility, you can click on Penalties to see if an inspection resulted in fines or payment denials. To view older citations, they have links here on the CNN article for you to download archived reports or file a public records request. Sometimes states may also offer detailed information on state websites, and there's a link to the state websites on the CNN article as well. So check it out, do your research, because there are few things more important than human life. This is the only time I've ever wanted the feds to step in on anything. I agree, player. Like I said, I'm a fan of the free market. I don't like having big federal government. But there are certain situations where things need to be regulated. This is what happens when you let these people run around without regulation or enforcement of the existing regulations. They try to get as much money as they can. They hire whoever the fuck they want, regardless of what's wrong with them, so long as they're willing to work cheap. Not even willing to do a cursory background examination because, frankly, we don't want to have the trouble. And who suffers? Not the rich people. Not the people who know what's going on. Not the young people. The people who cannot protect themselves. who cannot even speak out in their own defense because they are at the frailest part in their lives. It fucking sickens me. And if I was put in charge of a federal effort to do this, I would come down like the unholy hammer of God on these facilities. They would rue the day that I walk through their doors. And I hate using that because our society is so sarcastic that we're like, oh, rue the day. No, I mean, I will fucking roll through there like a whirlwind of fire and death. First off, every fine, period, I'm increasing by another 0. 116,000, how about 1.1 million? 22,000, how about 220,000? And I'm adding a 0 to the amount of time people go without payment, too. 11 days, let's try 110 days. Yeah, Emily, it is horrifying. Do you have anything happy to talk about, House?
I found a live stream to 24-hour kittens.
Oh yeah, the kitten live stream. That's awesome.
Well, no, we was talking about puppies last time, and now they've got one for kittens too.
I also found a live stream from the International Space Station that's just a live stream of the Earth.
Yeah, you got to watch that though. Every time a UFO flies past, it cuts out. They don't want you to know, man. You don't want.
Yeah, we're trying to feel better because it's such a depressing story. But this is why you need to be an educated voter. This is why you need to know what's going on in your society. This is why you need news that's not bullshit. So that you can go out there and you can go, no, this is broken. I want this to change. And you can call your senator and go, hey, motherfucker, change this.
Although they don't really take to that kind of language, trust me, I know.
Yeah. I actually had a few words with my local representative where I live, my state representative. I'm pretty sure I'm on some sort of list now.
Oh, I know Claire McCaskill can't stand me.
$24
She wanted.
Yeah, that's great.
She wanted to. She wanted to vote for. I forget. It was something about something about throttling the internet. I can't remember what. And
One of the billion attempts they do every couple of years to throttle the internet.
Yeah, she signed up for it, and I'm like, listen, bitch, don't cut down my access to porn.
I mean, people are protesting with vagina hats on, talking about, oh, Donald Trump is a racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, Islamophobe, he fucking dendrophobe. He's scared of the trees, man. And
well, that's where Charlie lives.
This is the shit you should be protesting. This is the shit that Black Lives Matter should care about.
Oh, dude, you know the kind of shit Black Lives Matter has been spewing?
Enlighten the masses.
Here, let me link you a tweet from one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter Toronto.
Oh, you want me to throw it up on screen?
Oh yes, I want them to know that I'm not making this shit up.
All right, go ahead and link it. And while we're waiting, and so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out, what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. Oh boy, it's Yusra K. Ali, that crazy bitch. Whiteness is not humanness. In fact, white skin is subhuman. And they have the X in human because it's not allowed to be about men. Because they're men.
Well, it's the double X chromosome.
All phenotypes exist within the black family. And white people are a genetic defect of blackness. What? White people are a genetic defect? Do they not into science, bro?
Apparently not.
White people have a higher concentration of enzyme inhibitors that suppress melanin production. I thought that white people just didn't produce as much melanin because, not as much sunlight.
Oh.
They are genetically deficient because melanin is present at the inception of a life. So is, cyanide. What's your point? Because there's a little bit of cyanide in your blood.
There's all kinds of...
Yeah, there's all kinds of horrible shit in your blood. Don't ever look up what's in your blood. It will shock you. Melanin is directly linked to fertility in the human reproductive system. Citation needed. Melanin is directly linked to strong bones.
Citation needed.
There's a Mandingo joke in there, but I'm not going to make it. Melanin is directly linked to the strength of the nervous system. Fucking what? Melanin is directly linked to the strength of senses such as vision and hearing. What? Yeah, because I've never met a black person who needs glasses. Melanin is directly linked to the strength of neurosystems affecting capacities like intelligence, memory, and creativity. Because, when they open up people's heads and take a look at their brains, they're not pale gray or maybe slightly pink.
Oh, wait until you read this next one. This is the one where I just lost it.
Melanin enables black skin to capture light and hold it in its memory node, which reveals that blackness converts light into knowledge. Fuck the what? This is beyond we was Kangs. This is we was space aliens. Melanin directly communicates with cosmic energy. The world shall be one together, cosmos without hatred. Stars like diamonds in your eyes. This is why the indigeneity of all humanity comes from blackness. What? I'm pretty sure indigeneity isn't a word. We are the first and strongest of all humixins. And our genetics are the foundation of all humixity. Melanin is essential for the efficient performance of all the body natural functions. Therefore, white people are recessive genetic defects. This is factual. Actually, then there would be no more white people because eventually recessive characteristics are bred out of the genome and only exist as throwbacks. White people need white supremacy as a mechanism to protect their survival as a people because all they can do is produce themselves. Black people, simply through their dominant genes, can literally wipe out the white race if we had the power to. See, I would be thinking that these people really wouldn't want to pick a fight with the white race. Picking a fight with white race tends to end poorly for everyone involved.
We organize real quick.
And we organize in very not nice ways. I am of Germanic heritage. Let's dance. It is why white supremacy as an imperial control system thrives. It tries to control, suppresses, and destroy our existence in blackness because we are a threat to the genetic annihilation of white people. Annihilation of white people. Do you ever wonder how black people, after centuries of colonial violence, genocide, and destruction, no matter what systems created to make us extinct, now we keep coming back? It is because we are superhumuxins. Top comment. You can get white from black, but you cannot get black from white. The black man is the original man. The white man is the grafted caveman. Black Lives Matter Toronto co-founder Yusra K. Ali. I'm Russian. Remember the last time someone got into a war with Russia? Didn't end well. Dominic Montoya. We was rocket scientists.
It never ends well when somebody goes to war with Russia.
Well,
all they got to do is wait until the winter comes in, and then they will die.
Well, there's one time Russia did lose a major war. That's because they weren't fighting it with Europe. Japan, the Russo-Japanese War. Russia got its ass stomped.
Well, yeah, but Japanese people are crazy.
The Japanese were coming from the water. Russians are like, we don't do water.
No, it's too fucking cold in Russia.
And that's what
they swim, they're going to die.
This is what these folks are focusing on, their race. Because, focusing on race always ends well. Focusing on race is how you get rid of racism. Once you just accept that black people are superhuman and we just need to genocide all the white people. If they're superhuman, how come they commit half of all murders?
Was it just me, or did the way she was talking about how melanin talks to the cosmos make you think a little bit of Silver Surfer and the power cosmic?
You mean the power Kangs, Mick?
Yeah. Well, of course they wouldn't be riding a surfboard because, black people.
I think I'm done. I can't take this humanity anymore.
I gave up about 45 minutes into this. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I've been sitting here trying not to die.
So that's right, everyone. Remember, you can't trust care facilities with your loved ones, and black people are superhumans that exist to annihilate the white race. And white supremacy is the only thing white people have going, not that whole Western civilization thing. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Pass this along to your friends if you really want to deeply disturb them. Send us messages over Facebook and Twitter. Send us emails at douchecanoestudio@gmail.com. But mostly, thanks for coming out.
Yes, you do, I Stobarich.
Oh my God. We've been hacked by Russia.